I've brought the brown chairs along today for a chat with a guy that you've probably already guessed given the background in which we sit. But this is a chap who started off as a farmer, then decided to set up his own car magazine, and then in middle age thought that becoming a YouTuber was a good idea. So I'd like to introduce for today's idle chat, Mr. Harry Metcalfe, in his own garage.
Thanks, Johnny. Good to see you here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Welcome.
I feel honoured sitting in this chair. I mean, so many famous people have sat in this chair now.
I'm sorry about the state.
It's, well, I did see you clean it up just before I sat down in it. It was, yeah, I was impressed.
I gave it a quick valet.
You did?
Because they've been in storage, and you did witness how unbelievably difficult they are to fit in any normal car.
We've got to rush this because that took quite a long time.
Yeah.
It was at least an hour to get them out of your car. I don't know.
Thanks for letting me come along.
Yeah.
I've never been to your, I'm going to say garage, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's a barn.
It is a barn, yeah. Yeah.
So
I ought to store proper things like grain and fertiliser and seed in here, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
It should be called Harry's car barn, shouldn't
Well,
it?
yeah, I don't like garage per se because it's always an individual car. And what I discovered, having gone around collections, it's so nice if you're in one room and all the toys are in one room. It makes such a difference. And I see others who grow their collection and just end up with 10 garages.
Yeah.
And you just think, no, don't start again. Make a space and just enjoy the space.
Well, for me, it's definitely aspirational because I've never had my cars in one space,
Yeah.
ever. I've never had them all in one line.
Yeah.
They're all scattered.
You're not alone.
No.
Yeah.
So this is inspirational for me.
Yeah.
We will go for a little walk round, but before we do a little walk round,
Yeah.
well, I was driving here this morning thinking,
Huh?
where do we begin this
I
chat?
know.
So
I know.
to people that don't necessarily know that much about you, I mean, I know you from setting up and owning EVO magazine.
Yeah, it was joint. It was a gang of us who did that one. But yeah, I was a farmer and it all happened by accident, whether that's where the point we want to start. But you're going right back. You want to start further back.
We've got to go right back. So
Yeah.
before it's farming turned car magazines, which is not a natural jump. How did you get into this? I wrote down horses and then crossed it out and then wrote motorbikes.
That is quite correct. My grandfather was actually a horse dealer up in Yorkshire.
Okay.
My dad was youngest son of a farming family and went and studied fashion at the Liverpool College of Art. And I always think, what did they say in the Yorkshire Dales? Young Uncle Charles, he couldn't believe it. He did fashion in Liverpool, couldn't believe it. And it's so bizarre to go from a farming background in Yorkshire. Yeah. I used to stay on the farm, Bellbank Farm in Bentham, High Bentham. And my grandfather said, I didn't really know, but the family there, Roger, one of my cousins, was into motorbikes. So as a 10, 11-year-old going up there, and Roger had this shed of motorbikes, and I used to muck around with those and engines, and this is really exciting.
Yeah.
And I think that sowed the seed, and then
He used to let you in the shed then?
Oh God, it was all over. It was,
okay,
yeah.
Okay.
And everyone, back then it was 16, you could ride a motorbike.
Yeah.
And every night there was meat. It was like Cafe Machine in Yorkshire, Roger's barn, and they all rocked in. So I was a 10-year-old thinking, this is just better, running around with cups of teas and stuff. And I think that was the sort of infection. My father, I say he had no real interest in cars. He'd like, his first car, he liked little tiny cars. A bubble car was when I was born. I got carted around because the Moses bastard sat on top of the engine of the bubble car.
Really?
And he used to drive from Watford to, parents in Yorkshire. And you just think, God, in a bubble car, you're
he used to
mad.
Drive from Watford to
Yorkshire.
Yorkshire.
He worked in London, Ashes. So, and I just, so he always liked little cars. I went to a Mini, and then I remember a Citroen dealer when he bought a brand new Diane 6. He tried to get a 2CV. He was even on about Aunt Robin, and my mum, I can remember this conversation, wondering if you get around, I'm leaving you. So he settled, he settled a Citroen Diane 6, and I sat in this Citroen SM in the showroom while I was, Dad, this is much better car. Why don't you buy this? Anyway, he bought a Citroen Diane 6. So yeah, he wasn't into cars, but he's quirky cars at least, somehow he ended up with a Citroen CX, which I just can't believe he bought. And then I can remember I got into Volkswagen Beetles, and I bought him a 1200 Beetle that it was just turnkey, and he absolutely loved that. So yeah,
so like
that's
sort of utilitarian, simple.
Loved design.
What was the bubble car? What do you remember? What
A
make
Trojan, whatever they
was
call
it.
it.
Trojan?
The sort of glass thing. I've got
The
a
British
picture of it.
Heinkel, basically.
Was it?
British
yeah,
built.
British. Oh, was it British? It had
was
big
the
sunroof. On the pictures, I see that red
Yeah.
thing. God knows where
Have
it
you
is
driven
now.
one?
I've never been anywhere near
They're
one.
terrifying.
Are they? Are they with
I
a
owned
door
a-
and the steering wheel comes out of the door
That's
and all
right.
that lot?
I owned a
Yeah.
Heinkel, and was it 8-inch wheels? I think 8-inch wheels.
Really?
It's terrifying.
I think growing up, what it taught me was design. Design was king, and my youth was all brought up with good design, shall we say. We had designers caught in the house. I used to join them at Paris and Milan Fashion Week and going out to see the fashion show. So a weird background, so not farming. So this weird connection with Roger's bike barn up in Yorkshire, fashion, growing up in Liverpool, weird mix. But we had a place in Wales, and after it bought a cottage in Wales, and it had 70 acres of woods around it. And after visiting Roger, or the farm in Yorkshire, I wanted a motorbike. And I passed my 11 plus, and he said, "What do you want?" "I want a bike." So I ended up with two little 50cc things, £15 we paid for them, and I used to tear around the tracks. Then Roger sold me a DOT 200 Scrambler, which is pretty awful, £27. And that's that picture over there of me on
There
that.
is a great picture on the wall. Yeah.
And so that was my escape.
Your career then is there was farming going on, but your dad went off and did.
I didn't pass my A levels well enough to go. I was doing automotive engineering. I had it wasn't sponsored. I can't remember what they called it, but with British Leyland to do automotive engineering at Loughborough. But I didn't get good enough at A levels. Dad said, "Well, you're going to do something." I said, "Well, what about farming?" And he booked me into Shuttleworth College, and I did an agricultural course.
Yeah.
Because I was always taking holiday jobs on farms. So yeah.
And you
so
like the
that was it.
countryside?
Because I sort of lived in Wales. Worked on farms, knew about farming a bit, weirdly. Because I say, holiday job was, I remember I did this farm was a story of the white Rolls Royce we'll come to, but that farm in the Wirral after A levels, I was working on this farm.
Yeah.
It was a dairy farm per se, but really to breed and show pedigree bulls. So as an 18-year-old, I was in bullpen and doing weird things with bulls, collecting semen. Don't want to go there. Anyway, so yeah, it's quite a mix. Yeah, so not automotive.
It's not this, is it?
Yeah, it's not this at all. But I just love farming. And I did course at Shuttleworth College, HND, and got a job as a grain buyer. And so I didn't have quite a lot. 50% of the students there had a farm to go back to, probably more than that.
Right. Okay.
So I was either going to be a farm manager, and that was a bit weird. I don't know whether I was going to do that. I wasn't that into it, but got this job as a grain buyer, and that was heaven. Because then it was sort of office space, and then at 10:30 you went out and then went visiting farms, and being a buyer, they really liked to see you. So I was cold calling, and I was always welcome because I could pay a price for wheat or barley or whatever, and then decided to go self-employed. I thought I could do this better than this.
Right.
And my trigger was when I could afford a mobile phone, because I thought I can keep in touch with the market, I can still stay on the road, because what used to happen pre-mobile phone, I'd go out and thinking the price of wheat was £120, I'd get back and Reg would say, "It's gone down to £114, I hope you didn't buy any." And then you say, "Well, oh yes, I bought some," because then you say, "I've just booked you in at 120, make him a call," but stuff. So you didn't actually know what the market was doing, but when it went up, you didn't know it was gone up either. So I thought, well, I can afford a mobile phone. Maybe that's a time to go self-employed. So that was 1984.
I was just about to ask you what year
Yeah,
that was.
and
84 is quite early for mobile.
Yeah, it was £2,000 to have a mobile phone. That's how much I paid for it, and that was fitted to the car. And then I became self-employed, buying grain, and I then started trading lime as well.
So you always Because I've always known that you're pretty good at keeping your eye on the way things are going. Let's put it like that. So in terms of cars, you're always trying to sort of eye up where things are at, what's going to happen in the future, do we think?
Fascinating.
And historically, you've done, your bets have paid off. So is this linked to the whole grain buying kind of?
Well, I suppose you just look at trends and what I knew the mobile phone was going to revolutionise, particularly areas when you're watching the market and you're operating in the countryside, as it were. You know, you have no other links, and this weirdness that you leave a grain office, we had 7 phones and grain buyers, and there was a book there, grain buyers always buying and selling.
Yeah.
And then you left the office and you were in no contact whatsoever. They hadn't a clue where you were, and so it was so disconnect from the market. And maybe you had to go out on farm because you had to test the grain, you have to see what they're growing, you have to, all sorts of things. When do you need it moving? What's going in that shed? So you actually needed to be on farm.
Yeah.
But
I bet you used to see so many rundown old cars.
I tell you, yeah. Well,
vans and bikes lying around farms.
Yeah, I did. I bought a wonderful Fiat 500, which had a 850, of all things, a DAF engine, which sounds daft, but it was horizontally opposed cylinders, all open up, and it was Jack Brabham's daughter. He'd made it for his daughter, and it was just sat there.
What?
And it had a blue stripe round it, and I just noticed it had these twin pipes coming out the back, and I had that for a bit. It had Campag alloy wheels on it and stuff, and I'd met Patricia by then, and she, my wife's Canadian, and she just couldn't believe the Fiat 500. What is this car, this tiny little thing? If you're from America / Canada,
it looks like
weird.
A children's
it just can't be real
toy.
Yeah. So I bought her one, and then I found this Jack Brabham car, daughter's car. So she used to run around in that, and it was a flyer. You couldn't use first gear because you just stripped the seat. The torque wouldn't have it, so you had to start off in second, third, and fourth, and it was fine. And we sold. It was such a shame. Also, I have no idea where it is now. But we moved up. She got a company car, got an AXGT. So
Citroen AXGT.
Yeah. So the Fiat
with the phone in.
No. Sorry,
pre-phone.
I'm in diesel. I started diesel Peugeot 305 because I had it as a company car. I bought it off the company, and then I went into Saab. So I had a string of Saab 900s because I loved them, turbos.
Was this this was
turbos.
a mobile phone with the Saab 900?
With the Saab 900, that was where I went.
With the moustache?
Yeah, all round with moustache, and all round the farms. I had 3 Saab turbos, 8 valves and then 2 16 valves. Used to get them tweaked by Brodie Britain Racing, and they used to strip gearbox as well. So as long as I had a gearbox fail within the 12 months, I could get a new gearbox from Saab. But they never questioned why it was wrecking a gearbox. It's because Brodie Britain wound up the turbo and dumped a load of torque.
Saabs, I've got to scratch that itch one day.
Yeah.
So you.
Where am I?
I know what I want to talk to you about. So before we go into the whole EVO thing, Beetle tuning.
Oh yeah.
Now I didn't know this about you until fairly recently. It's almost like you quietly admitted.
Yeah. I spent
seem ashamed
far
about
too
it.
much. I'm slightly ashamed because I spent too much money trying to make a Beetle go fast.
Yeah.
And it's quite hard to make a Beetle go fast.
It's expensive.
Oh God.
And they're temperamental creatures when they get wound up.
Was it Auto Cavern or something?
Yeah.
There was a VW tuner that was my mecca, and I used to drive around.
Jeff.
I put a big bore kit on it, had the Holly carb on it. Yeah, I spent far too much money on it.
Was this your first car though, Harry?
It was. First car was Citroen Diane 6 because I got it off my parents. I got that, traded that. I did a trade MGB GT that was a shed, so 21. So I was 1979-80.
And you were tuning this
I was
Beetle
tuning
up to hell.
Beetles to give it hell. Yeah. So yeah.
Did it ever successfully run and
Oh
drive?
yeah. I used to commute Liverpool to Shuttleworth. So yeah, most weekends I used to rock up and down in this thing.
Wow.
So I did all sorts. Had a little flip up spoiler on the back like a 2.7 RS.
Did it?
Yeah. Bright yellow. Sprayed it, and I had big fat wheels on it, almost Countach-sized tyres on the back, because you used to be able to send your steel wheels off, those Rostar wheels you used to get on VW Beetles, and they used to cut it and then put like 8-inch section in, band in it, and then you could put the monster great tyres on it. So I had all that stuff going on.
That's brilliant. Have you got any photos of it?
Very, very few. I must have, but I haven't got any in here. I ought to dig it out. It's like such a distant past.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
I know. But, grain bar buying agricultural colleges, and then realised that I really want to get into farming. How am I going to get into farming? I just love the way of life they had. I love the way you live, where you work, you connect to the nature, everything's wonderful. How do I get farming? And I started with sheep, so I used to take on bits of grass around the place and built up a sort of flock of sheep, lambing those. And then it was proper hard work, because you've got to look after livestock. You need everyday attention and try and do day job and all. So then I started trying to get into taking arable land on, which I started in '87. Somehow, farming was in a bad place in late '80s, and I managed to get up a really good farm in 1990, a 600-acre farm at Harpenden. And
that's Hertfordshire.
Yeah, and that went really well. Everything was sort of clicking into space. I had actually, the backstory is, if I bought property very early in '81, I couldn't afford the mortgage. I can remember selling dog food, dealer boots and stuff out the boot to up my salary, just anything to pay the mortgage. So I was very lucky. I'm of the generation, but I got in really early in property, and that in the background has done me very well. And then about 94, 95, farm next door to where we were renting this one at Harpenden, it was only a 3-year rent, came up, and we liked living doing this. I bought that, $500,000, don't know how I afforded it in 95, had to work even harder. Got some luck with that, with planning, on a barn, ag tie off, and I termed it mad money, and I'd also got to know some journalists at this point, John Barker, Dickie Mead and stuff. It was when the Elise, that's right, I got into Maseratis, didn't I? I had a Maserati Ghibli Cup.
I've written down Ghibli Cup, yes.
And that was the trick, because I knew it was the only one in the country. I phoned a few, I've got a letter from Jeremy Clarkson saying, thank you very much. And Steve Cropley got back to me, and Brett Fraser.
Yeah.
And I just said, they're just not, there was no press office for Maserati in the UK. It just hardly existed in the 90s. So this was the only car. So that's how I just got to know everyone, really.
So you bought it? I mean,
I had it as a farmer. Yeah, no,
YouTubers do it all the time now, but...
Yeah, no, nothing. No, I just quite like, I had an M3, I had an E30 M3 at that point, and I quite liked it. And then the E36 M3 came out, because it didn't quite have the competition pedigree of E30.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure about it. I didn't like it as, I loved the backstory of E30.
Yeah.
And Maserati were there, this Ghibli, and I thought, hang on a minute, it was Sierra Cosworth around, and I just liked the story. The Maserati sounded so glamorous, and it's got V6, and it was silly pack. It was 330 horsepower, wasn't it? 2 litre. I actually had 2.8 first, which was, I can't remember the horsepower. It wasn't quite as much, 286 or so.
Yeah.
But I went to try one, and long story short, they did a great deal, trade-in of E30, and suddenly I ended up with a Maserati, and then got to know journos, and then had a Ghibli Cup 2 litre proper one, red one, and I said to Brett, no one's ever going to write, you're never going to get a long-termer, why don't I write a long-termer bit on it and live in with a Maserati, and that's how it all happened. And then this property thing all happened in the background. So John, Dickie, we talked about magazines, and then there was this, they invited me out. I used to help them out on group tests as a safe pair of hands, as it were. They said, MX-5, it wasn't a very glamorous shoot, Z3 1.9.
Yeah.
I can't remember what else, MX-5 was a...
Pierce Brosnan Bond car.
Yeah, how did that happen? Anyway, and John Barker just said, you're not going to believe this, but this is going to be the last ever shoot we do for performance car. And I said, well, there's never been a better time to launch a car magazine. Let's talk about it. So that was the catalyst for everything. Yeah. I'd done a proper deal, and that's how sort of EVO rose from the ashes of performance car. And I knew I had to go really quick, because I knew this magazine was coming off sale, and I just had to fill that space. And the thing.
And you with no experience in the publishing
Well,
world at
then
all?
I knew magazines inside out. I was just completely addicted to car mags. So I think, although I had no knowledge of the publishing world, we knew the product. They knew the product. We all knew what we wanted. But I decided that I got mad money. I just got a planning permission on a barn, which I never thought I'd get. So I said, this is high risk. I didn't know I was going to earn that money. It's high risk. I don't mind doing another high risk venture with this money. It's like, anyway, that was my theory.
Okay.
And I wanted to do it anyway. So it was going to happen.
And this is pre having a collection of cars.
I was sort of racing in a land sprint. I used to do Hillclimb's land sprint. So I had a nice car, because I had the Maserati and I had a lovely little Elan. I used to go around the hills, Prescott and Triple C Championship. I came runner-up in, I remember, 85 or something. British champion, Triple C champion, so it was all
hobby, kind of hobby
complete
stuff.
hobby, and it was road registered. Big regret, I never did circuit racing, I only did the hills and stuff. I can remember going to meet it nearly didn't get called EVO, because when I went up to see them, and John and Dickie come up with the name Road Sport. I said, we're not calling it Road Sport.
Sport.
We're going to have we just did a brainstorm, and EVO came out of that. It's going to be GT, GTO, EVO. I just want to really short because everything with cars sort of taken, and I said at the time a great mobile phone company was Orange, and there was a magazine called Red. I said, don't worry that it's not a car, it doesn't need car, it's the logo, short, and if you knew cars, EVO actually meant something, but to the outside world, but it was just a tight logo, so just some things just fall into place. You think, God, that was clever, but it wasn't, it just happened. And I was spraying a field at the Hyde and having this phone call about the computer equipment, and this is 98, remember? And he said, "Oh, that's yeah." I said, "How much is that all going to be to do that?" So Jim, and it was £45,000 worth of computer equipment, and I can remember saying, "Oh, all right then," and buying it. And we're off. 45k for the computers just to set it up, and we knew where we were going to do it because it was the speed. We had to act really fast. There was no dummy. Well, there was a dummy issue, but no time to waste. We had to fill that hole that was appearing.
The Performance Car magazine
on the shelf. So that was it.
Gosh.
So yeah, it was quite a time, to say the least. Yeah, and but it all came together. It was a lovely period, actually. We hit it right with the market and the performance cars coming out. That was what I wanted in EVO. It was the best stuff, the most entertaining stuff that would photograph really well and gave a pleasure. We're selling a dream. I kept telling them, selling a dream. And that's why we did the trips and all the rest. That's what everybody wants to do with cars, So, yeah. All this computer equipment, all going in. And I can remember coming down the stairs just to join setup before everybody had sort of rocked up. And he says, "Oh, do you want a website?" Oh, I said, website. Why do we want a website? He said, "Well, you can put your address on it if people have to find where you are, and then they can see where you are." So I said, "I suppose it's no reason not to have one."
And the younger viewers are going to be going,
"Yeah,
what?
Well, this is 98." And he said, "What should we call it?" I said, "It's EVO, isn't it? Just put EVO in." So he tapped in. He was on a laptop, sitting on the floor, tapped in. Yeah, evo.co.uk. Yeah, that'll do. Yeah, see you then.
It's available.
And that was it. We just said, "You got a website." Oh, thanks very much. And went home and thought nothing of it. But you've got to remember, 98 is also when Google was setting up. They were in a garage setting up. It was so weird from the world we live in now to what it was like then.
You always strike me as being someone that's quite jolly and kind of happy-go-lucky is probably might not be the right term, but farming can be quite stressful and obviously very time-consuming. And being a YouTuber can be.
Yes,
I've found.
Yes, it can be. I think what farming teaches you is you don't have ultimate control. You just got to go with the flow. I cannot do anything about a really hard winter, a really wet winter, a harvest that just will not come in because it won't stop raining. And you can get upset about it. There's nothing you can do about it. And I suppose that makes you a bit chilled. But it's just you. And I think what I've learned from being both in publishing magazines where it's a real team effort, and you can, I could go and review a car, pick up what engineer was saying, bash some copy out. I always knew Peter Tomlin the sub-editor would make my words look better and fit and put clever words
Yeah.
in that I didn't know existed. Fact check, all of that stuff. The photographer you were teamed with, if he did really good images, your words mattered less because everybody just looked at the pictures anyway. So everything, it was a lovely team effort that you all put out, and then there was this deadline. And the new magazines used to arrive in the office, and it was hush for about 30 minutes as everybody just absorbed what they created.
I used to find that really exciting.
It's really good when the new issue arrives. Unless you've been in publishing, you won't understand how exciting when that new issue lands is, and then the first sort of sales figures. With YouTube, what I think is, the positivity, it's just you, so you can make your own magic and it's all down to you. But it's not a team effort in the same way, and it's a very individual thing. And I explain to people that the magazine, big team effort all together. Being a YouTuber, you're almost like a columnist in a newspaper or a magazine. It's your opinions, and it's very hard to break out. It's very hard to introduce other people onto your channel. And I'll have a holiday, so Jonny Smith is going to take over the road testing, and I'm off to Sahara. That's great. It just doesn't quite work. It just doesn't work. And so that's the rod we're creating for ourselves. Sorry, that Tesla going to Sahara or the Rolls Royce going to the Arctic. The joy of YouTube, I probably wouldn't have done those if I hadn't had a YouTube channel. And I just pinched myself that we did those things.
Worst car you've ever had to buy and worst car you've ever tested on EVO? Probably at EVO days.
Yeah, worst car. I bought that Spectre Defender I bought.
Yeah, I remember that.
Hated. I sort of loved and hated it. I loved the way it looked and everything it stood for, and the fact it was actually in the film. Yeah. It was so rubbish to drive. Truly awful thing. Just lumpy, had no grip.
People don't believe me.
I hate Defenders, and that taught me. I still hate Defenders. Even this one, that's meant to be the most desirable Defender.
But it looked spectacular.
Oh, it looked the part, absolutely the part, and it had been in the film and stuff. And then I remember going up to Scotland to do the launch of a Lexus, and I can't remember the name of that convertible, that metal folding roof, LX, I want to say, or something.
Oh, SC, the SC 430.
Yeah, 430.
The sort of like Beverly Hills kind of middle-aged person car.
Horrendous product. I mean, it just only use for it as a sea anchor, or just tell him, I've died, I've got dementia, I've bought this car. Just awful.
Pre-internet car buying.
Yeah.
Now, I remember doing it, and I really enjoyed it. And the days of Ad Trader and the free ads, the yellow paper,
Exchange and Mart was the biggie for me.
Did you used
Auto
to
Trader.
buy cars on a whim? Did you used to do the whole pick up the phone, I'll be there in 3 hours, drive straight there, go and have a look?
Done all that. Yeah, used to do that. Exchange and Mart, bought the Elan, my race Elan that way. No, you used to. That was the way you did it. Or Sunday Times was the other big one.
Sunday Times?
Yeah, you're looking at driving section and just seeing what was advertised, because that had really fancy ads in it, and then new Ferraris and how much, and Lamborghinis and stuff.
Yeah.
So
do
that.
Do you miss that? I mean, it was a bit of a
so
roulette
easy
wheel.
Now. It was, but I think you've still got that same roulette wheel on eBay or something like that.
Yeah.
Because unless you go and view it, but quite a lot of the times you're just buying off photographs, and it might not be quite.
Sometimes terrible photographs.
Yes.
Tell me about the EVO Performance Car of the Year 2000 tests. There was quite a few cars that seem to have got killed.
Oh, that one. Oh, you know about that one? Oh, God, that one.
It sounded like it was just
a
series of car death.
It was wet. Well, I don't know why I'd invited an Alpha 147 that I realised was a mistake as soon as it arrived. And the engine failed on it, really peculiar. But we're going on the first day, engine failed. I was going down the road into Bettiscode, and it started knocking and died. I pulled over. David Vivian was following me in a TVR, I want to say Tuscan, I think it was a Tuscan.
Yeah.
And he picked me up in it. And I can remember we had to catch the rest of the group off. So he went off at the fair old lick, and I couldn't get the seatbelt in. Don't know why I'm doing it that way. It must have been that way because I was a passenger. And it wouldn't click in. And I finally got it to click in, looked up, and realised that we weren't going to make this corner. He braked, locked up, and went straight into this stone wall, dry stone wall, that just exploded in front of us. And we ended up, it bounced off. We were still on the tarmac. And yeah, so that was within 5 minutes. I just can't believe
Within
I
5 minutes
literally
of the
lunch outfit, and I put my seatbelt on. It was literally look up. Oh, we're going to have a crash.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so that was a lucky escape. But if you're going to have an accident, I can recommend highly. Dry stone walls are terrific to hit
Because they just let go.
They just get all the energy out because they're not concrete, and they just let go.
Of course,
And
the
Russell
TVR was
Baldwin,
perfect afterwards.
yeah, and then someone else. It was pouring rain on the EVO triangle, and the 340R head-butted a bank because it was on those Yokohama tires. If I make an excuse for it, it was a helping hand.
Oh,
It
they
wasn't
don't
an
work in the
editorial.
rain.
They don't work in the rain. And so we called it quits. Everybody, it was awful. That was a really bad one.
How do you go about buying and living with a car like a Zonda? How do you come
well,
up with the reason, the rationale behind it? Because I mean,
well,
none of these are practical.
No,
as
it was
were.
utterly mad, and I don't know why I was looking. Why I thought I was going to spend that much money on a car, but I term it. It was like me coming out. I really am a really serious car enthusiast. I'm going to spend £200,000 on a car, and I remember rejecting an F40 because I just looked at the way it was built and stuff, and you look at the way the Zonda was built. It was beautifully done.
Yeah.
I sort of wish I'd bought a 288 GTO. I didn't try one. It was sort of, I looked at F40 and thought, I'm not going to buy one. Then this press Zonda came about and came available, and it was about 30, 40,000 pounds more than an F40. I remember phoning the bank. I said, I need some help here. I'm going to do this. And Simon, my bank manager at the time, said, who complete car nut, said, yeah, go on then.
Really?
I said, you're not being much help here.
So what,
You're meant to say
basically
no.
borrow £250,000 quid?
Yeah, no, it wasn't that much. It was 220,000, I think I paid for it.
Wow.
Yeah, about 150. I don't know, something like that. And so I ended up owning it purely because the bank manager was a complete car nut and he wanted to go in a Zonda. So that's how the Zonda came about.
Did you ever buy it thinking it would be an investment?
No.
Or did you buy it because you thought it was a wonderful car?
No, I couldn't believe it, and I was in a position where this could happen. And then, yeah, so I had it, used it as I do all the other cars.
Because that predates Harry's garage, doesn't it? The Zonda, a lot of people will remember.
2000, I don't know when I bought it, 2005, I'm going to say. Same time as the Fiat Panda. So I bought my wife a Fiat Panda, and I had a Zonda. And then it just frustrated me because it was costing so much money just to sit. If I didn't take it out of the garage, it would cost me 20,000 a year, and I thought that's mad.
That's another car.
Yeah, and so and it was also where camera phones were coming in, and piston heads was stuff. So I sold it because I just got fed up with the amount of attention it drew, and people doing stupid manoeuvres on motorways and dual carriageway to do a photograph of it, and cutting in and overtaking and going, dropping back. And just tedious.
Hanging in your blind spot.
Well, I'm just driving home. So some people like the attention. When you're using it regularly, it became a complete pain in the backside. And I remember sitting at EVO one night, waiting for it to go dark to go home. I thought, this is mad.
Just because you were driving a supercar?
Couldn't be fagged, with the attention.
The car parazzi.
Yeah.
Okay, well, on the other end of the scale, here's the situation. You lose everything.
Yeah.
Money has all gone.
Oh.
You can't pull in any favours.
Oh.
You need a car.
Right.
All right?
Yeah.
What car do you buy for under £1,000? Let's presume that you can still buy an MOT'd car for £100,000. Right now, it's not very easy. But you need to live with this car. What car do you buy and why?
£1,000 is pushing it, isn't it?
Okay, let's say 1,500. I mean, Chris Harris had a good answer.
Yeah.
He came out with it straight away.
Yeah.
As if he's already planned it.
Right. No, I was going to say Range Rover or something like that, but I can't have that. I suppose.
Get a broken one. You'd have to mend it. You're quite handy with it.
No, I don't think I could do that. What could I have? I can't say Fiat Panda because I can't see I could actually do all the motorway journeys and that and stuff. No, I haven't really. There isn't something that
1,800 quid?
I don't. This is going to sound awful. I don't know the market well enough. I think I'd like to find a hot Volvo. I think if I could find a hot Volvo,
Big engine Volvo.
yeah, big engine Volvo.
Engines aren't
Yeah, I
You get an
find a
850 or a-
760 or something like that. I quite like rock or maybe
V70?
a V7. Would I get a
A leggy one.
leggy V70? I like the wafting. I could
Yeah.
live. I don't want to live with a sports car. If I'm going to have one car
Yeah.
at the moment, I'd waft and then save up and get something silly and perhaps a motorbike for a few £100, and that would get me
There
thrills
you
like
go.
that. That's how I
You'd
do
have the
it.
Swedish seats as well.
That sort of stuff. I just like the style of all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go. Look, so a leggy, muddy farm spec
Yeah.
Volvo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'd like.
I think we're going to have to wind this up
Yeah.
because I mean I haven't even asked all the questions, but there's so much to go through.
Oh, that's,
but
well, it's been really kind of you to come along. You know,
Thank
we've
you.
been hoping you might one day, and here you are.
it's just great because like obviously you know we both have a background in magazines and you know the printed media.
Yeah.
And have sort of migrated almost by accident in some
Yeah.
ways.
Yeah.
Your garage is definitely more impressive than mine. Mine's a gloomy place and
Yeah.
significantly smaller and more drafty.
I've been working on this one for decades, so
Yeah.
Johnny, you're going to get this garage. I can't wait. You need a big garage because you've got the charger and stuff like that, haven't you?
That was my last question.
Oh,
You need this. You need missing American muscle.
feel
like you
so
need
many
to.
times I've looked. I love that American muscle. You think, oh, I don't like utes. I don't like. We had one up here actually, a charger, and we tuned it with some electric. It had a fuel injection kit on it
Yeah.
rather than a Holly,
Yes.
and it was running as rough as nails. And they said, oh, you can retune that and give it the map. And there was some map, and we did it out there, mobile, and this car just sing. It was like music, and we went around, herring around. That left a set of 11s on the front drive. So I love them, and I don't. One has to go. My motto now: one has to go before one comes in.
That is so good of you, especially when you have all this space.
I have to ration it now.
Yeah.
Otherwise they don't get used. But anyway, Johnny, really kind of you to come along.
So, well, what we're going to do another video where we walk around and have a quick chat about the cars, including lesser seen vehicles from Harry's channel. I don't need to tell you to subscribe to Harry's Garage. You probably already have. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, well, you're an idiot. But I'll put a link in the description.
Yeah.
And thanks ever so much for watching this idle chat episode of the Late Break Show.